Introduction 1. Crossing the Douluo Continent, Su Yi became an outsider disciple of the Seven Treasures Glass Sect. As he traveled, a memory of the Battle of Jialingguan over 20 years later appeared in the minds of the indigenous people of Douluo Continent. At this point, everyone on Douluo Continent knows the final outcome. Various forces are constantly inserting hidden lines, and Su Yi has also become a member of the Undercover army. In the first year of Undercover Operation Su Yi. Master, I have successfully infiltrated the interior of the Martial Soul Hall. Ning Fengji said, In the third year of Undercover Operation Su Yi. Master, I have successfully caught the attention of the Pope. Ning Fengji. Very good. In the fifth year of Undercover Operation Su Yi. I have become the Golden Generation. Ning Fengji said, Su Yi, you are a sharp sword of our Seven Treasures Glass Sect. In the 10th year of Undercover Operation Su Yi said, Master, if we don't close the net again, I will become the Pope. Ning Fengji said, Undercover for 15 years. Ning Feng roared hysterically, Su Yi, let you undercover at the Martial Soul Hall. Who asked you to marry Bibi Dong? Introduction 2. Travel through Douluo and obtain the Gunslinger system. When other children were still playing with hints, Su Yi started shooting with a green machine gun. When other people's children were still in the White Tiger Flame Light Wave, Su Yi had already covered the entire picture with the laser cannon in his arms. Su Yi, what about the firepower support we need? Don't worry, let the shells fly for a while. Under the cover of firepower, how can there be a complete egg? Keywords of the novel. Douluo. Undercover Martial Soul Hall, who made you marry the Pope without a pop-up window? Douluo. Undercover Martial Soul Hall, who made you marry the Pope? Download the complete text. Douluo. Undercover Martial Soul Hall, who made you marry the Pope? Latest chapters to read. Chapter 1. Who is an undercover agent? You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Chapter 1. Who is an undercover agent? Starry Forest. Su Yi squatted by the river, looking at himself in the water, dressed in off-white armor and with short black hair, lost in thought 12 years ago. He crossed the continent of Douluo and became a baby in swaddling clothes, crying for nourishment. He was picked up by Sword Douluo Qinshin and brought back to his sect. This is the Douluo continent that he is familiar with, but there are some differences. Because not long after his travels, an additional memory emerged in the minds of the indigenous people on the Douluo continent. This is a memory about the Battle of Jialingguan more than 20 years later. At this point, everyone knows the ending of the story. Some people don't take it seriously, some are skeptical, some are panicked, and even some. The emergence of this prophecy made Tiando, Xinglua, Shangsanzong, Wuhuan Temple. All parties frantically explore and choose to insert dark lines into other forces. Under this trend of random insertion, he also became a member of the Undercover army. He didn't have to become an undercover agent originally, but fate really pulled him crazy. At the awakening ceremony of his martial soul at the age of 6. His unknown martial soul was identified as useless. Even soul power is 0. He knows his martial soul is a handgun, but Nima doesn't have a trigger. He was worried, like his own grandson, that his ordinary identity would not be able to establish himself in the sect. He was afraid that in decades, the sect would not even have anyone to support him, and he would not even be able to eat a bowl of hot rice. So I chose to use the method of lurking in the Martial Soul Hall to make him contribute to the sect, thinking that when I return to the sect in the future, I can also make others look up. Just didn't expect that 2 years after he arrived at the Martial Soul Hall, the system woke up. Gunner System. The emergence of the system allowed his martial soul to discover earth-shattering changes, allowing him to freely switch forms, such as grim machine guns, anti-tank guns. His soul ring does not exist in the form of an aura, but rather an energy card. In addition, this system also has another function, illustrated guide. 500-year-old solitary bamboo, unlocked, first level guide effect. Unlock passive heavy firearms to master, significantly reduce soul power consumption of all skills. Millennium Human Face Magic Spider, unlocked. Millennium Ghost Tiger, unlocked. Second layer guidebook effect. Unlocking passive skill potential explosion, increasing attack power by 50%, 3,000-year-old Pink Empress, unlocked. 3,000-year-old Snow Demon Silkworm, unlocked. 5,000-year-old Four-Eyed Linjia Beast, unlocked. Third layer picture guide effect. Unknown, dot. Soul skill. First soul skill. Green machine gun. Second soul skill. Anti-tank cannon. Third soul skill. Laser cannon, unlocked, dot. For the system panel, Su-Yi can only see these things, and as for what is below, it is pitch black, so he can only explore slowly. The most interesting thing about his system is that besides upgrading, unlocking the guidebook will also give him corresponding rewards. Every ability is strong. Unlocking the guidebook does not necessarily mean killing the soul beast. You only need to take the blood or a root from the soul beast's body. Due to the existence of this system, his life was like a game in which he was promoted to Soul Lord in just 4 years and then met the legendary Pope. Even recently became the 4th person in the Golden Generation. When I think of Bibidong's sexy red lips, graceful figure, and pop. Su-Yi slapped himself. Where did you go? Now we are in enemy camp, and if we are not careful, we may end up scattering flowers. Calm down. 6 years have passed with the protection of the system, his life in the Martial Soul Hall is extremely comfortable. He can't spend all his money and has access to cultivation resources. As long as he performs better than the Martial Soul Hall, there will be no danger at all. The Seven Treasures Glass Sect has also given him enough benefits due to his success lurking from time to time. Gradually, he found himself falling in love with the days of being an undercover agent. Su-Yi, let's go. Helena, dressed in a pink outfit, looked over with a natural charm in her eyebrows and eyes. That little appearance. How coquettish it must be. The two young people next to Helena are Xiayu and Yen. Here we go. He picked up the clear river water with both hands and patted his face, making himself more energetic. This time coming to the Star Forest, it appears to be to obtain one's 3rd soul ring, but in reality, it is to prepare to meet with the new contact person. He originally planned to come out alone, but these 3 people around him insisted on following him. To avoid suspicion. It can only be carried. Su-Yi, why do you have to choose the Four-Eyed Linjia Beast as your 3rd soul ring? I don't quite understand either. Your martial soul is clearly a handgun, and even the Pope said you should look for a soul beast with strong explosive power, but the Four-Eyed Unicorn Armor Beast is clearly for defense. The explosive Fire Phoenix just now is very suitable for you. Helena and her siblings were deeply puzzled by each word they said on their faces. Shoo. Su-Yi made a silent gesture and then climbed up to the tallest tree trunk nearby like a monkey. Looking into the distance at a distance of about 500 meters in front, he saw a soul beast shaped like a crocodile, about 5 meters long, with 4 eyes and thick limbs as thick as a bucket. The biggest feature should be a layer of black skin that looks like steel on the other side. He also saw another group of people, about a dozen or so, who recognized their sect at a glance from the color of their clothes. The Seven Treasures Glass Sect. Judging from the posture of these people, it is obvious that they are also heading towards this Four-Eyed Linjia Beast. Charge. At the moment he uttered this word, Su-Yi was like a cheetah walking through the dense starry forest. Helena and the 3 of them followed closely behind when he arrived. More than a dozen members of the Seven Treasures Glass Sect were already besieging this Four-Eyed Unicorn Armored Beast, which was about 5,000 years old. Among these dozen or so people, there are 5 or 6 Seven Treasure Glass Pagoda Auxiliary Soul Masters, while the rest are all combat-type Soul Masters. Is this the Soul Beast you want? But it has already been preempted by the people of the Seven Treasures Glass Sect. After Helena ran over, she said. The soul beasts in the Star Do Forest are originally ownerless items, whoever snatches them is there. This is the rule of Douluo Continent. After speaking, Su Yi's martial soul was released, and a bright silver handgun appeared in his hand, with strange golden patterns on it. The handgun was about 3 feet long and had a caliber of about 10 centimeters. Immediately after, 2 energy cards, one yellow and one purple, appeared above the handgun. The cards were about 8 centimeters long, 5 centimeters wide, and about 5 millimeters thick. This is what sets him apart from others. Others appear as soul rings, while he is this type of energy card. When the yellow card engraved with bamboo patterns was seamlessly inserted into the slot above the handgun, the golden pattern on the barrel lit up. Under his control, the energy contained on the card was continuously compressed and charged inside the barrel accompanied by a mechanical sound. The handgun underwent a transformation and had now become a black weapon with 12 barrels, each emitting a chilling aura. Protruides. 12 gun barrels fought together, and a dense barrage of bullets shot wildly at the people of the Seven Treasures Glass Sect. This is Su Yi's first soul skill. The green machine gun. Helena and others were all stunned. They thought Su Yi would choose to first deal with the soul beast in front of them. I didn't expect. Feeling a dense attack descending overhead, the people of the Seven Treasures Glass Sect quickly found a place to hide. Master, it's from the Martial Soul Hall. Su Yi just saw them, and they also noticed Su Yi, but didn't expect this guy to launch an attack without reason. They were suffocated by such dense attacks, and the waist-thick trunk of the people next to them had been turned into scattered pieces after a round of strafing. Even the small hill they were avoiding had been cut off in large part. I see it. This middle-aged man with a gentle appearance did not choose to evacuate or fight back. He came here to help disciples of the sect obtain soul rings, which is actually a cover, and his real purpose is to connect them. According to the information given by the sect leader, one of these 4 people should be an undercover agent of their Seven Treasures Glass Sect. Who? He doesn't know. But first of all, we can rule out this bastard who is shooting them with blue flames. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. Electric Storage Laser Cannon. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2 Electric Storage Laser Cannon. Su Yi, why don't we just forget it? We don't have much grudge against the Seven Treasures Glass Sect either. Helena said beside her. If we continue to fight, the conflict between the two forces may escalate. Since they had an additional prophecy in their minds, the various forces have become particularly sensitive, and starting friction now is clearly not a wise move. Forget it. How can this be calculated? You 3, first keep this 4-eyed unicorn beast, and I'll give them a shuttle to catch it. As Su Yi spoke, the green machine gun in his hand turned again, and the 12 barrels continuously fired bullets condensed from energy cards. He didn't understand why his soul ring appeared in the form of this energy card, but it was really useful. This type of attack generated by compressing energy by inserting cards into the barrel can instantly extract the explosive power from the soul ring, which is much more terrifying than the soul skill power of ordinary soul masters. Boss, I can't hold on anymore. 2 soul kings from the defense department were staring in front, and at this moment, their noses began to sweat. Is this Nima really just a great soul master? What puzzled them the most was that they never saw this guy's soul ring from beginning to end. Although this level of attack is not enough to cause too much damage for them, they have already started to panic because they need to be distracted to protect the several auxiliary soul masters behind them. 2 of them were about to move forward when they were pushed back by dense firepower. Withdraw. Take immediate decisions in charge. His real purpose this time is to connect with the hidden line installed in the Martial Soul Hall. It's better not to act rashly until it's clear who the undercover agent is. Others were unaware that there was an undercover agent among these 4 people, and there was really a large-scale friction going on. What if the undercover agent dies? Although he still doesn't know who among these 4 people he is looking for, he has a rough guess in his heart. The little girl with a worried face just now is very likely. Boss, will we withdraw now? That's our soul beast. One of the soul masters felt unwilling, as this soul beast could have become his soul ring. I'll withdraw as soon as I say. The steward shouted sternly. In the hearts of others, they feel depressed, as these four people in front of them can easily grasp each other. But the boss has already spoken, and they have to listen. After seeing the people of the Seven Treasures Glass Sect run away, Sui didn't choose to pursue them either. Instead, he aimed his gun at the four-eyed Lingjia beast that had already been surrounded by the three of Hulaina. At this point, the handgun has returned to its original appearance, and the cards in the slot have been ejected and dissipated into energy. And in his left hand appeared a purple card carved with a colorful tiger. At the moment the card was inserted into the slot, the handgun in Suyi's palm had transformed into a giant cannon about 5 feet long and with a caliber of about 15 centimeters, embedded with strange light blue patterns. The muzzle slightly shifted, a shell suddenly shot out, and the surrounding air twisted at this moment. Bang! The terrifying roar exploded on the body of the four-eyed unicorn, instantly generating energy waves that rolled up the surrounding ground and propelled the massive creature, which had been around 5,000 years old, more than 10 meters away. The steel-like scales were also blasted open. Sleeping slot. Yen and Xiaoyu stared blankly in place. This guy's Nima has become stronger before he even knows it, and his explosive power may have surpassed theirs. The most unacceptable thing for the two of them is that Sui is still a quasi-soul master who has not obtained the third soul ring, and they will soon have a soul king. This kind of confusion only appeared for a moment, and the next moment they were awakened by bullets that were passing through their scalp. Moon Blade. The third soul skill, the Flames of Hell. Under the encirclement of four people, this four-eyed Lingjia beast, which was around 5,000 years old, had already collapsed to the ground before it could hold up half a cup of tea. Sui also made up for the last shot cleanly. Unfortunately, this is a 5,000-year-old four-eyed unicorn. Hulina sighed, and according to the limit of the Soul Master's absorption of soul rings, this soul beast must at least be the fourth soul ring of the Soul Master. And Sui is just a quasi-soul master. Four-eyed Lingjia beast, I'm not polite. Sui rubbed his hands with a look of anticipation. Do you want to absorb the soul ring of this soul beast? Crazy. Hulina's eyes suddenly opened, and 5,000 years had already exceeded the limit of the third soul ring, which Sui could not have been unaware of. You three guard for me. Sui sat on the ground in Panshi, making a gesture of absorbing soul rings with his hands imprinted. If you do this, you will explode and die. Hulina walked over and stopped Suyi's crazy move. Don't worry. I have my own physical strength chart. Before departure, the Pope made me the supreme commander of this operation, and you all have to listen to me. Sui said lightly. But Hulina wanted to say something more, but at this moment, Sui had already guided the soul ring into her body. Suyi's outburst seems to have surpassed yours. You don't need to say it. Why are you still angry? We're teammates. Being a teammate is true, but Yan's gaze turned to Hulina beside him. In the past 2 years, Hulina's thoughts seemed to gradually shift towards Sui, which made him extremely unhappy. Just like now, Sui absorbs the soul ring, while Hulaina is guarding beside her, with a hint of worry on her face. When did he receive such treatment? Shua. He, Xiaoyu smiled and patted Yan's shoulder, understanding the thoughts of these people. Sister, come and take a break. Sui won't have anything to do. How do you know? That's a soul ring from 5,000 years old, and he actually wants to use it as the third soul ring. This guy is more willing to sacrifice his life than anyone else. Although everything he does is confusing and sometimes even scares the Pope, has he ever failed? You're right to say that. After listening to her brother Xiaoyu's words, Hulaiina's worries also eased a bit. 1 hour later, success. Seeing Su Yi slowly opening his eyes from the state of absorbing soul rings, Hulaiina exclaimed in surprise. Su Yi-chang breathed a sigh of relief. The handgun in his right hand had not changed much, but there was already a rotating energy card above it. That is a purple card with the pattern of a four-eyed unicorn carved on it. Ding, congratulations to the host for being promoted to Soul Master and obtaining the third soul skill. Laser Cannon. Ding, congratulations to the host for unlocking the third layer guidebook. The laser cannon has been upgraded to an electric storage laser cannon. This guy will shock the Pope again when he goes back. Watching Su Yi's soaring strength, Yen was sour. In just a few short years, Su Yi went from being a young soul master who had just joined the Martial Soul Hall to becoming the fourth member of the Golden Generation in the Martial Soul Hall. At this speed, I'm afraid it won't be long before it will surpass his head. By then, his chances with Nana will probably be even smaller. What is the third soul skill? Hurina asked eagerly. Let's leave here first before we talk. Along the way, apart from the 5,000-year-old four-eyed Linjia beast just now, Su Yi and his team never encountered a more powerful soul beast again. Su Yi, why don't we choose to return to the Martial Soul City and come to this small town instead? Yen frowned as he looked at the environment in the small town. The environment in this place is not very good. Just this smell. It doesn't smell as good as his crotch. There won't be enough time to return to the Martial Soul City today. This is the nearest town, let's make do with staying overnight. Under the leadership of Su Yi, they quickly settled in a hotel in the small town. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. Are you an undercover? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3. Are you an undercover? The night is quiet like a stagnant pool, and even the dog has fallen asleep at this point. Bang 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 bang, bang 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 bang, the rhythmic knocking outside the door made the leader of the Seven Treasures Glass Sect sit up from the bed with a quick rub. The person in charge of the joint is here. The mountains are high and the emperor is far away. The assistant walked cautiously to the door and tentatively said something. There are many shallow water kings. After hearing the signal from the other party, the manager confidently opened the door. How is it you? Seeing Su Yi, the manager was frightened and quickly retreated. This is the bastard who was crazily shooting at them in the Soul Beast Forest. Although he is already the Soul King, he is an auxiliary type and has no way to face the War Soul Master. Shoo. I'm afraid others won't hear me, right? Su Yi closed the door and made a silent gesture, trying to keep their voices from spreading outside. Are you? Who are you? The joint manager still couldn't believe that this guy who mercilessly shot them would be an undercover agent. This Nima is even more ferocious than the Martial Soul Hall. 3 camps and 6 groups, outer disciples white-faced gourd babies. Su Yi first reported the lurking code when he came up. 9 battalions and 18 groups, inner sect leader Immortal Grass Dog Tail Flower. Although the boss was surprised, he was able to reveal their joint code and undercover code. This person. That's right. But this person is an undercover agent, which he never expected. The previous liaison was killed by a horse fall after drinking. In the future, I will be your new contact person, just call me Dog Tail Flower. The reason why this manager will change the contact person was roughly explained by Su Yi. Okay, dog. The main reason why I met with you this time is one thing. The news is becoming increasingly difficult to handle now. If you still want me to send intelligence from within the papal palace to outside, we need to pay extra. I promise to exchange the 10,000-year soul bone for a 20,000-year one. This is the main reason for his joint this time. The Seven Treasures Glass Sect promised to give him a soul bone last time, but more than a month has passed and it has not been fulfilled. Soul bones. I can't make decisions about this, I can only bring your words back to the sect. After hearing the soul bone, Dog-tail Flower was taken aback. Can there be so many benefits to being an undercover agent? Why didn't anyone tell him before? For Su Yi's information, he had already read it when he took over this task. Because he lacked soul power, he was judged to only be an ordinary person at that time. Later, due to his special identity, very few people knew about him in the sect. With the consent of Su Yi, he was sent to the Martial Soul Palace to work as an ordinary logistics officer. Unexpectedly, after entering the Martial Soul Palace, his strength skyrocketed. In just a few years, he had already entered the Papal Palace from the Martial Soul Child Palace. Now Su Yi is already the biggest ace in their Seven Treasures Glass Sect secret line. Then tell them, I won't take any risks without enough benefits. Su Yi crossed his legs and lightly tapped on the table. I will convey your words. Elder Jian asked me to say that he misses you very much. The Dog-tail Flower is not forced. Go back and tell the old man, don't be so numb. If you really want me, quickly redeem that soul bone for me. Su Yi said lightly. Don't you have any news for me to bring back from this meeting? Dog-tail Flower asked weakly. No. This meeting is about telling you about soul bones. Let the sect fulfill it as soon as possible. It's not that Su Yi didn't have that much intelligence, but rather that there are some things that only Hulina and he know besides the Pope. If this is transmitted back to the sect, let Bibi Dong know again. Choose between two. There's no need for a detective, even a bun dog can guess. So after lurking for 6 years, he realized the essence. Undercover agents can't say anything, the first thing to do is to ensure his own safety. Goodbye, dog. Watching Su Yi leave, Dog-tail Flower touched his head. The thought of Su Yi shooting at them in the starry forest raised a question in his heart. Does this product really have no backlash? Su Yi walked on the street of the small town, and a mechanical sound echoed in his mind. Ding! Congratulations to the host for opening the 4th layer of the guidebook. 10,000-year cave magic spider, unlocked, 10,000-year fever magic lizard, unlocked, octagonal black ice grass, unlocked, flame apricot delicate sparse, unlocked, 4th layer picture guide effect. Unknown, The 4th level guidebook came a bit late. He looked at the content on his 4th level guidebook, and although the first 2 types of eternal soul beasts were not very common, it was not too difficult as long as he stayed in the star forest for more time. Let's go to the sunset forest to get these 2 fairy grasses from behind. Pinch your fingers and calculate. There's still plenty of time. After returning this time, we need to think carefully. The Papal Palace. The ground made of white jade shines with a warm light and strange patterns are carved on the golden pillars. There are only 2 people in the entire hall at this moment. How was the harvest this time? Pope Bibidon was dressed in a luxurious purple robe adorned with gold patterns, wearing a 9-curved purple gold crown on his head, holding a gemstone scepter in his left hand, and resting his right hand on his cheek, sitting lazily on the papal chair. At this moment, her gaze fell on Su Yi in front of her. Everything goes smoothly. A 5,000-year-old 4-eyed scaled armored beast. Su Yi's face showed a satisfied smile. The original plan was to ask for soul bones from the Seven Treasures Glass Sect, but I didn't expect to hunt and kill a 4-eyed unicorn armored beast, and unlock his 3rd level map book. 4-eyed scaled armored beast. That's not a purely defensive soul beast. Didn't I tell you to hunt explosive soul beasts? Bibidong's eyebrows furrowed slightly, followed by a hint of surprise in his beautiful eyes. What are you saying? 5,000 years. Release your martial soul quickly and let me take a look. With a flash of purple light, Bibi quickly left the papal chair and appeared in front of Su Yi. Pope, don't get excited. As he spoke, Su Yi's soul power surged, his right hand extended out, and a bright silver handgun with strange patterns had already appeared in his palm. At the same time, 3 energy cards appeared above the handgun. It's really 5,000 years. As a title Douluo, Bibi Dong could immediately see the energy contained in the purple card that Su Yi had added, which was much more terrifying than the previous 2 combined. She couldn't figure out how this kid could absorb 5,000-year-old soul beasts as soul rings. I don't understand why Su Yi appeared as an energy card carrier after absorbing soul rings, rather than a soul ring like a soul master. But she had to admit that Su Yi's strength was stronger. She had studied the secrets of Su Yi a long time ago. This type of energy card is similar to the soul ring of a soul master, but it uses the energy extracted from it as an explosive release skill, similar to the explosive ring of Haotian sect, but different. Because Su Yi's energy card will not disappear after use, but the energy may take a short period of time to recover. As for the specifics, she couldn't understand it anymore. In recent years, she has studied everything she needs to do. She can't slice this kid, after all, he is the backbone of the future of the martial soul palace. Try your 3rd soul skill. At this moment, a different expression appeared on her face. Although Su Yi had not been at the papal hall for a long time, every move surprised her greatly. Just like this time being able to absorb a soul ring that has been around for 5,000 years and this 4-eyed scaled armored beast that is completely different from him. Su Yi looked around, searching for the target that his 3rd soul skill was about to attack. No need to look, just come towards me. Bibi Dong said calmly. She also wanted to personally experience the level of damage that Su Yi's soul ring, which was attached by a pure defensive soul beast, could achieve. Then I really came. As Su Yi spoke, he took 2 steps back. As soon as the purple card engraved with a 4-eyed scaled armored beast was inserted into the slot, the handgun in his palm instantly grew larger and turned into a laser cannon containing blue electric current in an instant. So big. Seeing the small handgun in Su Yi's hand switch shape in an instant, Bibi Dong's expression also changed slightly. But she did not make any defense due to the changes in Su Yi's martial soul, and attacks at the Soul Lord level obviously could not harm her at all. Pope, take a shot at me. The laser cannon launcher in Su Yi's hand kept charging, and when it reached its peak, the laser cannon expanded again. Faced with the title Douluo, he didn't hesitate to extract all the energy from the card. A beam of light as thick as a bucket shot out, and the flickering light made Bibi Dong dare not even look directly at it. Shwa! The beam of light penetrated Bibi Dong's body and landed on the golden pillar behind him, causing a trembling sensation throughout the entire floor of the papal palace. While under the bombardment of the laser cannon, Bibi Dong's robe was electrocuted to the size of a palm, and his flat lower abdomen was faintly visible. The scene before Su Yi couldn't help but take a few more glances. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. The days of being an undercover agent are really wonderful. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4. The days of being an undercover agent are really wonderful. Stinky kid, are you still looking? With a wave of Bibi Dong's hand, Su Yi couldn't even keep his eyes open due to his strong soul power. When he looked over again, Bibi Dong's body was already covered in a purple long shirt. Bibi Dong could never have imagined that a third soul skill could electrically focus a small piece of her clothes. It seems that she underestimated the power of this soul skill. But what surprised her even more was that the soul skills provided by pure defensive soul beasts like the four-eyed scaled armor beast could have such powerful explosive power. This kid's talent is much stronger than Nana's. After all, others awaken their martial souls and possess soul power at the age of 6, while he only possesses it at the age of 8. Even with a 2-year gap, he has been ahead of his peers. In theory, she should have taken on such a powerful talent as a disciple, but Su Yi's martial soul and cultivation methods. She couldn't see through them at all. Even if Su Yi is indeed accepted as a disciple, she doesn't know what to teach. It would be better for a soul master like this to have his own talent, high intelligence, and peculiar qualities to comprehend. Pope, the matter we discussed last time. Su Yi raised his eyebrows lightly and hinted wildly. No problem. As long as you reach the soul sect before the age of 14, I will send you a soul bone on behalf of the Martial Soul Hall. Bibi Dong's mouth slightly raised. If Su Yi really could reach the soul sect before the age of 14, then such a genius soul master could praise a soul bone. Just, can it really be achieved in 2 years? Okay, then let's settle it this way. Su Yi chuckled and left the papal palace. If nothing unexpected happens, the soul bone he mentioned to the Seven Treasures Glass Sect should be able to be redeemed. As long as he upgrades to the soul sect again, there will be 2 soul bones. The days of being an undercover agent are really wonderful. Not long after Su Yi left, the 2 elders of the Martial Soul Hall, Moon Pass and Ghost, hurriedly walked in. Under the papal crown, Tang Hao and his son ran away. Since the prophecy of Douluo Continent appeared, they have known that Tang Hao had a son, and in the prophecy, Tang San also overthrew the Martial Soul Hall. So for so many years, they have been chasing Tang Hao and his son. But this father and son clearly knew the prophecy, and every time they went, they noticed something strange and had slipped away in advance. Alright, I got it. For this result, Bibi Dong is already numb. Over the years, from Holy Soul Village, Barak City, the kingdom of Sylvester, every time they pounced on nothing. How's the investigation of the Dark Line going? The emergence of prophecy has made the powerful powers of the 2 empires and the upper 3 sects all monitor their every move, and in recent years, many hidden lines have been inserted into the Martial Soul Hall. She chose to believe this prophecy. The throne of Rakshasa, the existence of Qian Rengshu, and her plan to unify the Douluo continent have all been prophesied. She doesn't know how this prophecy came about, maybe God is manipulating it. But she didn't want everything that happened in the prophecy to come true, so she has been working hard to change it for the past 12 years. Many have been removed and are still being cleaned up. We brought one more person back this time. Yu Guan bowed and smiled slightly. Although the pursuit of Tang Hao's whereabouts this time was unsuccessful, it was not without any gains. What person? Bibi Dong asked calmly. Come in. The Moon Pass did not explicitly state it, but rather sold a pass. A young man dressed in grey cloth and with neat short hair walked slowly into the entrance of the Pope's palace, with a face full of whiskers but a pair of big peach blossom eyes. The boy walked straight to a distance of about 5 meters from the Pope and stood still. Under the Pope's crown, my name is Oscar. I hope to join the Martial Soul Hall. Oscar saluted Bibi Dong with a respectful tone. The emergence of prophecy brought about a revolutionary change in his life. After the Martial Soul Awakening ceremony at the age of 6, someone approached him and forcibly brought him to a Soul Master sect. Although he didn't have to worry about food and drink inside, and the sect leader treated him very well, and recently helped him obtain the 3rd soul ring, he lost his freedom from that day on and could only practice and live according to the sect leader's instructions. It wasn't until a while ago that he was discovered by the Moon Pass and brought the Martial Soul City. Oscar. Bibi Dong pondered and remembered this person. In the prophecy, this girl named Oscar and the Seven Treasures Glass Sect could work together to resurrect a god. She doesn't know if humans can really reach that level. But choosing to join the Martial Soul Hall now is definitely a good thing for her. The premise is true loyalty to the Martial Soul Hall. Under the Pope's crown, this young man's martial soul is Sausages, a food-based soul master with innate soul power. Yu Guan's words are undoubtedly a reminder to Bibi Dong that this is the boy in the prophecy. Great, welcome to the Martial Soul Hall. Ghost, take him to the Martial Soul Hall Academy to report first. Bibi Dong's face showed a faint smile. After the ghost took Oscar out, her gaze fell on Yu Guan standing beside her. Elder Ju, tell me how you discovered Oscar. For safety reasons, she must understand the detailed process of the matter. In the current situation, dark lines are being frantically inserted between various forces. If an undercover agent is put in, it would not be a good thing for the Martial Soul Hall. At that time, I passed by a small town with the old ghost. The owner of a Martial Soul branch hall reported to me that a small sect in the town had been behaving abnormally in recent years. Then, the old ghost and I sneaked in to investigate and discovered Oscar. Under my pressure. Yu Guan explained in detail the process of the matter. He forced the leader of that small sect to inquire about Oscar's situation, and in recent years, he has not had contact with any other forces besides this small sect. Even very few people in that small sect know about Oscar. Let him join the advanced class and practice with Su Yi and the others. The appearance of Oscar undoubtedly increased the credibility of the prophecy in her mind, and also made her desire to change this outcome even stronger. Alright, you go down first. Bibi Dong rubbed her forehead. Over the years, various sects have been working around that prophecy, and the thought of that prophecy makes her feel overwhelmed. Especially when she was defeated in the final battle, everyone now knows what she said to Yu Xiaojiang. What a big society has died. If it weren't for her papal status, I don't know how many people would be discussing this kind of bloody matter. Sometimes, she asks herself more than once, do you really know how to say that kind of stupid thing? Newcomers and new books, seeking support, end of this chapter. Chapter 5. The prophecy has already changed unconsciously. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5. The prophecy has already changed unconsciously. Martial Soul Hall Academy. The best college recognized by Douluo Continent. Because apart from the Star Luo Empire winning the championship of the elite competition of the All-Continent Soul Master Advanced Soul Master Academy once, the remaining champions belong to the Martial Soul Hall. At this moment, more than 30 students in the advanced class were discussing in groups of 3 or 2. There are those who say they will hunt for a soul beast in their next soul ring, those who say they are researching their own soul skills, and those who discuss who has a bigger, but the students in the class are all talented soul masters carefully selected by the Martial Soul Hall, just like Su Yi and Hulina. Su Yi, what did the teacher say to you yesterday? Hulina sat next to Su Yi in the last row and asked. It's nothing, just asked about my third soul skill. Su Yi calmly replied. Are you scolding you for not listening to the teacher and choosing an explosive soul beast? Hulina guessed for sure that there would be such a scene. Su Yi never makes the Pope worry, always doing things that go against common sense, but this guy seems to be right every time. It's unpredictable. You're really smart. Su Yi said absent-mindedly. What he is thinking now is what method he can use to get the fairy grass in the sunset forest. You have new team members. The ghost walked over with Oscar. The former teacher of the advanced class was originally a red-clothed bishop. Later, due to reasons such as Su Yi and Hulina, Bibi Dong ordered the ghost to personally take over. After all, these students in the advanced class will become the backbone of the Martial Soul Hall, and Bibi Dong will occasionally come to inspect. My name is Oscar, and I am a food-oriented soul master. Oscar's introduction is very simple, not even mentioning his martial soul. Mainly the disaster caused by that prophecy. As a commoner, he doesn't even want so many people's attention to be focused on him. It's too dangerous. Oscar. The others didn't react, but Su Yi's eyes lit up. How did this guy come to the Martial Soul Hall? However, upon reflection, due to the appearance of that prophecy, this Douluo Continent was no longer the one he was familiar with. The Wulin Hall has been secretly investigating the whereabouts of Tang Hao and his son all day, so Tang San is still in Douluo. It is said that recently news broke out that Yu Xiaojiang was searching the world for Tang San, seemingly intending to prove his 10 core theories of martial soul through Tang San, in order to make the prophecy come true. The Blue Electric Tyrannosaurus Rex sect is making various preparations for the ending of Bibidong's claim to destroy their family, and there are countless such incidents. The whole Douluo continent can be described as a mess. After scanning the classroom, Oscar finally chose to sit next to Sui. The reason is rear seat safety, not easy to attract the attention of others. Oscar. Xiaoyu and Yan exchanged a glance. I have a slight impression. This seems very impressive in the prophecy, and it's also from the enemy camp. Shoo. Don't look at me like that, I am the Oscar, but I have already joined the Martial Soul Hall. Oscar signaled them not to speak up. Are you an undercover agent? Yen looked over with an unkind gaze. Recently, their Martial Soul Hall has been investigating the hidden lines frequently, and even the advanced class has caught one person. Big brother, no one is covering me up. Who am I going to work as an undercover agent for? After my martial soul awakened, I was taken to a small sect by a group of lunatics and stayed there for 8 years. Coming to the advanced class of the Martial Soul Hall this time is what the Pope meant. During the 8 years spent in the Xiaozong sect, he finally realized that for him now, only the Martial Soul Hall is the safest. It's good to cool off under the big tree. Although it is said that the Martial Soul Hall was overthrown in the prophecy, what is the credibility of it? Even if everything that happened in the prophecy is true, now that the Martial Soul Hall already knows, will such things still be allowed to happen? He hasn't seen any of the called Tang San and Dai Mubai in that memory until now. Prophecy. Early Nima had undergone changes unconsciously. Anyway, he has already decided to stay in the Martial Soul Hall. The prophecy of marrying by Fume. I don't think about it anymore. A dog's life is in danger. What does the Pope mean? What the Pope means. Upon hearing that the Pope had invited Oscar to join the senior class, Xiaoyu and Yan also expressed that it was okay. After a boring day of classes, Sui, Hulina, Xiaoyu, and Yan were left alone by the ghost. For this situation, the four of them have long been accustomed to it. As the golden generation of the Martial Soul Hall, they are different from other students in the advanced class. In order to make them become powerful soul masters as soon as possible, the Martial Soul Hall will involve them in some special actions. There is a special mission recently, you four will follow along. The ghost looked at the four people in front of him and said with a hint of coldness. What task is it? Sui asked. Clean up Dugubo. The Martial Soul Hall has always had this idea, but has not found a suitable opportunity. As soon as he thought of the prophecy that the old man's deadly poison would knock down all the ordinary soul masters guarding Jialing Pass, and the city was filled with lush greenery, he felt a chill on his spine. After recent discussions, they decided not to wait. Take the initiative and seek opportunities. This. As soon as she heard that she was going to engage in a bandolua, whether it was Xiaoyu, Yan, or Hulaina, her face suddenly changed. Let them participate in the battle of the title Douluo level. Are you sure you're not joking? Even soul masters at the level of soul sect and soul master don't need Dugu Bo to take action. As long as they are affected by the poisonous mist, they will probably get cold. Why, are you afraid? I just wanted you to take a look at the battles at the level of title Douluo, but I didn't let you directly participate. You three should all learn from Sui. Looking at Sui next to him with a rubbed face, the corner of his ghostly mouth twitched slightly. Although he praised Sui verbally, he really couldn't tell what was going on in this kid's mind. In his opinion, the other three are the reactions that humans should have. This kid, elder ghost, when are we leaving? Sui asked eagerly. Prepare and depart tomorrow. The ghost finished speaking and left. Sui, this kid really doesn't know what fear is. If it weren't for the Pope's orders, he wouldn't be too lazy to bring these little ghosts. Sui, are you so confident? What kind of certainty? That's a battle at the level of title Douluo. I know, why don't we just stay away a bit later? That makes sense. New book seeking collection, seeking recommendation tickets, end of this chapter. Chapter 6. Playful Damage. Su Yixing. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Chapter 6 Playful Damage. Su Yixing. Seven Treasures Glass Sect. Alright, you go down. A middle-aged man dressed in white clothes, with a refined and slightly frail appearance, sat in the main seat and smiled slightly. He is the leader of the Seven Treasures Glass Sect. Ning Fengji. On his left and right side sat Sword Douluo Qinchin and Bone Douluo Gurong, respectively. Yes, Lord. The head bowed slightly and then walked out of the conference hall. I knew this kid would say that all day long. He knew he needed soul bones. Gurong let out a cold snort, even while sitting, his body was still surprising. The originally spacious seat made him sit on it, clearly appearing much smaller. Su Yi has been very successful as an undercover agent in the Martial Soul Hall, and he is the only one among the hidden lines we have planted who can come into contact with the true core. Over the past few years, I have also provided a lot of useful intelligence for the sect. Let me see what happened to the soul bones. As she spoke, Qinchin's gaze turned to Ning Fengji. Su Yi was able to successfully infiltrate the Pope's palace, firstly because his excellent talent attracted Bibidong's attention, and secondly because only the three of them, along with the assistant in charge, knew the identity of that kid. Old thing, I knew you had to speak up for this kid. Gurong savored the tea carefully while saying. Because he is my grandson. Qinchin grudged back, and his eyes fell on Ning Fengji. No matter how much he said, the master Ning Fengji had the final say in the domination of soul bones. Give it to him. Since we have already agreed to give it, the difference between 10,000 years and 20,000 years is not that big anymore. At the next meeting, ask the steward to bring the soul bone to him. Ning Fengji smiled slightly. In recent years, Su Yi has indeed made a lot of contributions to the sect. Although it is not enough to reward a soul bone, that amazing talent is indeed enough for their sect to focus on cultivating. If it weren't for Su Yi being their most successful hidden line, he would have sent that kid back to the sect to practice now. In recent years, he has also been trying to insert a hidden line into the Martial Soul Hall to replace Su Yi's position. But they all failed. There was no figure of that kid in the prophecy, did he already? You're just dead. That kid is even more cunning than a fox, even if the mice are extinct, he can't die. Halfway through Gurong's words, he was immediately interrupted by Chen Xian. He has also thought about this issue more than once. In his opinion, that kid must have had something more important to do at that time, and the most likely thing is that this prophecy about Nima was not true. Isn't it? We're both dead, not even scum left. Gurong twitched the corner of his mouth and laughed, self-deprecating. In that memory, he and Chen Xian were directly shattered by Bibidong. Uncle Jian and Uncle Gu, don't speak such words recklessly in the future. Ning Feng furrowed his brow slightly. He didn't know whether the prophecy would come or not, but many things had already been fulfilled. The two things he is most worried about now are that Su Yi, a highly talented soul master, did not appear in the final prophecy, and the two protective gods of their sect. And in that prophecy, he could also see that the status of the Seven Treasures and Glass Sect was not as good as before. What touched him the most was picking up the bones of Qinchin and Gurong on the battlefield alone. He doesn't care if this prophecy can become a reality, but from the moment it appears in his mind, he decides to change everything. Where has our little princess gone? Qinchin suddenly asked. This girl must be sitting in front of the mountain gate thinking about why her martial soul is not the 9 treasures glass pagoda. When it comes to Ning Rongrong, Gurong's face shows a smile from the bottom of her heart. You old man must be thinking of Rongrong again. Gurong knew from his expression what Chen Xian was thinking. Ever since Su Yi showed his talent, this old man has been thinking of finding a wife for that kid. So what? Our family, Rongronggu, is spiritually eccentric and beautiful. Su-yi, that kid, has excellent talent and is a good material for a soul master. These two people are together. A perfect match. Fengji, do you, as a father, have an attitude towards this matter? Qinxin put down her teacup and looked at Ningfengji. As long as Rongrong is willing, I have no objection to this matter. Ningfeng gave a slight smile. Su-yi was originally a member of their Seven Treasures Glass Sect, and with this powerful talent, being his son-in-law is completely no problem. Okay, I'll go give Rongrong a lesson now. Don't tell her about Su-yi's existence, you old thing. I'm not as foolish as you. Tiando City, Martial Soul Temple. After arriving here, Su-yi finally knew why the Martial Soul Hall had to deal with Dugu Bo at this time. Because this old thing is jumping now. The emergence of prophecy has made the Snow Knight Emperor increasingly concerned about avalanches, and the Snow Star Prince, who has a good relationship with Dugu Bo, supports this fourth prince. In addition, Dugu Bo demonstrated a powerful weapon of war in his prophecy. Whether it was Starfall or Martial Soul Hall, once a real battle broke out, it was impossible to ignore this old thing. Over time, the status of Avalanche in Dugu Bo and the Tiando royal family grew higher and higher. Now it has threatened the position of Qian Renxue lurking within the Tiando royal family. It is said that not long ago, the Snow Knight Emperor also adopted their plan to search for Tang Hao's father and son and win them over. So the Martial Soul Hall decided to start with the old Dugu Bo. Old ghost, it's been several days in a row. We can't wait like this anymore. Yu Guan said while trimming her nails. The scouts they sent out have been staring at the palace gate of the Tiando royal family, and now they only know that old Dugu Bo is inside the palace. Who knows exactly when he will come out? Wait, we can't go to the Heavenly Do Palace to extract him. A ghostly figure flashed, and a figure emitting black mist had already appeared in the main hall. How about? Let me give it a try. Su-yi doesn't want to wait anymore. He wanted to go for a stroll in the Sunset Forest several times, but he couldn't start fighting here, so he was really a bit uneasy. What kind of devilish idea do you have? Tell me about it. Yu Guan put away the small file in her hand and looked at Su-yi. I don't have an idea. Let's go out and look for opportunities first. Su-yi replied. I tell you, don't mess around. Once the grass startles the snake, it won't be so easy to deal with Dugu Bok again next time. The various forces are showing exceptional sensitivity now, and if the situation is escalated, one scene from the prophecy may have to be staged ahead of schedule. At this time, no one dares to cause trouble on a large scale, including their Martial Soul Hall. Don't worry, I have a plan in my heart. Su-yi waved his hand and walked out of the Martial Soul Temple alone, taking out his pocket. Two elders, did you really let Su-yi leave? If he startles the snake, then our mission this time will fail. Yen said on the side. What's your good idea then? Hulina asked back, her tone revealing a hint of anger. Yen clenched his fist. He really doesn't have a way to find a solution. So when Su-yi left, he felt uncomfortable in his heart. Let him give it a try. The ghost gazed at the departing figure. Playing with damage. Su-yi. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. Immortal Grass. You're welcome. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Chapter 7 Immortal Grass. You're welcome. Tiando Imperial Palace. Dugu Bo held his granddaughter's soul guide, and the fierce killing aura made everyone in the hall unable to breathe and fell to the ground groaning. Ignoring the advice of Prince Xuexing, he rushed out of the Tiando Palace. Because along with the soul guide, there was also a note that said his granddaughter Yen Yen had been kidnapped. According to the description of the captain of the night guard, this soul guide was brought to a tall and thin soul master with red hair. According to the address on the note, he was flying rapidly in the air. No matter who the other party is, if they dare to kidnap Dugu Bo's granddaughter, they are already dead. Yan, not far from the Tiando Palace, saw Dugu Bo leave the palace with his palm on his chest. It can be considered a breath of relaxation. Su Yi, that bastard, surprisingly entrusted such a dangerous task to him. Fortunately, he ran fast, otherwise he would have died if caught by Dugu Bo. That bastard must be because he scolded him before and harbors revenge. 2 hours later, when Su Yi stood in front of an oval-shaped hot spring divided into 2 colors, he was somewhat surprised. The rolling mist continued to rise until it slowly dissipated at the location of the mountain pass. There are also plants of different shapes growing next to the hot springs. Ice and Fire 2 eyes. This is the Eye of Ice and Fire. Su Yi laughed excitedly. After hearing the long-lost roar on the outskirts of Tiando City, he ran towards the direction of Sunset Forest without thinking about it. Although it is very difficult to find a hot spring as small as the Ice and Fire Liangyi eyes in the forest, it becomes much easier to find the poison barrier set by Dugu Bo. In addition, with the detoxification medicine specially provided by the Martial Soul Hall, he easily crossed the poison barrier and arrived here. This should be the 8-petal fairy orchid. Su Yi stared at a snow-white 8-petal orchid, its petals trembling slightly, and suddenly a refreshing floral fragrance rushed in. Coxcomb Phoenix Sunflower, Chilua Tulip, Snowy Swan Kiss. There's something there. Looking at these immortal herbs, Su Yi's smile gradually became unrestrained. Without saying a word, I haven't taken out any golden knives or jade bottles from the soul guide. Start working. Fortunately, he has learned a lot about immortal herbs from Yueguan in recent years. He knows how to extract and store most of the immortal herbs around him. He originally planned to take away the autumn dew and leave. But after being surrounded by these immortal herbs, he decided to take them all. Dugu Bo, this old man, has offended the Martial Soul Hall. I'm afraid he won't be able to use these immortal herbs after this time. Moreover, these herbs are said to be owned by Dugu Bo, but in reality, they are only monopolized by their own strength. According to time, Dugu Bo probably has already cooled down by now. These herbs, but he won't pretend to be aloof either. If he takes it, he will take it. He can't leave these immortal herbs to others, can he? When most of the fairy grass had entered his soul guide, it was already approaching dusk. Su Yi looked at the last 2 fairy grass plants left: octagonal black ice grass and fiery apricot fragrance. Eat. Taking these 2 immortal herbs together can make his body stronger, without invasion of water or fire, which is beneficial for him without any harm. He didn't hesitate, with a metal weapon in his left hand and a sharp jade knife in his right hand, while throwing it out. Under his precise control, 2 immortal grasses were chopped down while being shaken by his strength. After the 2 immortal grass plants fell in front of him in no particular order, both the cold and hot breath disappeared at the same time. According to records, after these 2 fairy grasses intersect with each other, their breath will be restrained by each other, and this is also the best time to take them. Without hesitation, Su Yi picked up these 2 fairy grasses and stuffed them into his mouth. It tastes good. The fairy grass melted at the entrance, and Su Yi felt a refreshing sweetness in his mouth. With a thud, he jumped into the Eyes of Ice and Fire Liangyi, and immediately felt a feeling of a dual heaven of ice and fire spreading throughout his body. Time is like water. From night to morning Su Yi looked at the Ice and Fire Liangyi eyes that had been swept clean by him, as well as everything he had done for the deceased Dugu Bo. Nodding in satisfaction. Leaving. When he arrived at the outskirts of Tiando City, he was completely stunned. Because here I saw a scene of chaos and a gloomy appearance of the moon pass and the ghost. Failed. Su Yi looked at Helena, who was leaning against a big tree next to her. When Dugu Bo saw the 2 elders, he seemed to realize that he had been tricked. So he was always on guard, and when he didn't see his granddaughter, he chose to run away without thinking. Although the two elders responded, he still managed to escape. Helena recounted the recent situation. When she thought of the poisonous mist that Dugubo had released, which covered several thousand meters, she felt scared. It was precisely because of that mist that poisoned Douluo fled back to Tiando City. Just run away, then run away. Su-yi felt that it was not important for Dugubo to survive, but rather for him to achieve his goal. However, the fact that Dugubo did not die is likely to cause a stir on the Douluo continent. As soon as he thought about what he had done for Dugubo, his face suddenly showed a strange expression. Go back. The ghost said dejectedly. This mission failed, and what awaits them when they return to the papal palace is probably the Pope's anger. The plan was seamless, and he couldn't figure out how that old guy Dugubo would have noticed. Damn it. Tianduching, a certain hotel. In the room, a young man with long black hair and a slender figure was forcefully knocking on the door. At this moment, his face was filled with 7 points of anger and 3 points of murderous intent. And behind him stood a woman with deep purple short hair and green eyes with a hint of monster. Tianheng, can you open it? The woman asked beside her. The outside has been sealed with soul power, and this person's strength is stronger than both of us. It may not be so easy to open it. He shook his head and happily brought Dugu Yan to the hotel to open a room today. Unexpectedly, when he was about to leave early in the morning, the room was sealed outside. Who the hell is doing this prank? Dugu Yan's eyes suddenly became sharp, and due to anger, a green poisonous mist emanated from her body. The most infuriating thing is that this bastard actually took all their clothes and left them naked here. 2 days later, the Sunset Forest. MMP. Moon Pass, ghosts, one day I will throw away the ancestral graves of your two families. The roar of Dugubo echoed through the Soul Beast Forest. Although he escaped from the hands of two old bastards, Moon Pass and Ghost, he also suffered considerable injuries this time. I originally wanted to come to my own medicine garden to find some medicinal herbs to treat my injuries. I didn't expect this. Nima has been looted completely. The most outrageous thing is still the tombstone in front of me. It's actually engraved with his name. Seeing this thing, Dugubo was so angry that he almost twisted his braids. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. Benefits brought by Xiancao. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8 Benefits brought by Xiancao the Papal Palace. Su-yi, you performed very well in this operation. After listening to this action report, Bibidong's only satisfaction was with Su-yi's plan. Thank you, Pope. I don't know what reward there will be this time. Su-yi smiled and asked. No. If the task is successfully completed, giving rewards is not impossible. But the consequences of the failed mission now make her feel overwhelmed, even though she is still licking her face and asking for a reward. Every time I complete a task, I come to ask for a reward. This kid has fallen into the trap of money. If you don't have soul bones, it's okay to have cultivation resources or something. We can't just go for nothing. Su-yi said. Get lost. Bibidong's face suddenly pulled down. Let's go. Yuguan and Gue Mei began to exchange glances. If the task is not completed and they are not repaired, it is already considered Pope's mercy. This kid is actually thinking of benefits. Two elders, please stay for a while. After hearing this sentence, Yuguan and Gue Mei both shrank their necks. Nima. Not good. Go back and get some sleep. Standing in front of the Pope's palace, Su-yi stretched lazily. Damn it. Yen looked at the back of Su-yi as he left, feeling even more displeased in his heart. They worked hard for so many days, and Su-yi was the only one who received praise from the Pope. The mission failed, and you still have the face to demand rewards. What annoyed him the most was the attitude of the Pope. If he were to demand rewards like this, not to mention not giving them, he would probably have been beaten long ago. Watching Su Yi turn increasingly red in front of the Po Pi sour. Returning to the separate dormitory of the Martial Soul Hall Academy, Su Yi began to feel the changes brought about by the absorption of ice and fire immortal grass. The most obvious change is that his physical strength is completely different from before. Soul power has also been increased to level 34. The level increase was quite unexpected for him, as he clearly remembered that Tang San did not increase his soul power when he took the ice and fire immortal grass in the original work. This ice and fire fairy grass seems to be more friendly to him. As for the deeper changes, I estimate we will have to wait until we experience them in real combat. Slowly opening his eyes from his inner vision, he took out another fairy grass from his soul guide. Su Yi looked at this lush green herb, with a few drops of water on its leaves. Looking through the autumn dew. This is the fairy grass that Su Yi wants to take the most, apart from octagonal ice grass and flame apricot delicate soothing. The effect of this fairy grass on improving vision is excellent for a long-range gunner like him. Chi Lu, Su Yi trembled lightly, and a few drops of water on the fairy grass were sucked into his mouth, while the autumn dew in his hand completely withered and turned into ash in the blink of an eye. Su Yi felt a cool stream of water flowing through his body, and his brain became transparent. Sitting cross-legged on the bed, quietly enjoying the next day, in the morning. A knock on the door startled him out of this state. Slowly opening his eyes, he felt everything around him become incredibly clear, even the mosquitoes in the corner of the room could be clearly seen. This feeling is like being bitten by a spider. It's wonderful. Su Yi, don't be late for today's practical assessment. The voice of the evil moon rang outside the door. Got it. In the Martial Soul Hall Academy, there is a soul fighting competition every semester, with the aim of assessing the strength of the students and also providing an opportunity for other soul masters to enter the advanced class. As long as the soul master reaches the level of soul master, there is an opportunity to choose opponents in the advanced class. As long as there are ups and downs or the losers are not too ugly, they are eligible to enter the advanced class. Of course, this rule does not apply to auxiliary soul masters. This is the dream of many soul masters in the Martial Soul Hall Academy, and it is also a shortcut to gaining the reuse of the Martial Soul Hall. When Su Yi arrived at the actual Battle Soul Arena, everyone else had already arrived, and today it was not just students from their advanced class who came. In addition, there are more than a dozen students who have reached the Soul Master level, rubbing their hands and searching for opponents they are preparing to challenge, in order to enter the advanced class. Su Yi, be the first to come on stage. The ghost glanced at Su Yi, who was late. He was not targeting him, but rather eager to see his strength after obtaining the third soul ring. Does anyone want to be Su Yi's opponent? The ghost stood on the soul fighting platform, and wherever his gaze passed, the students all lowered their heads in shame. Why hasn't anyone challenged him? This guy is so young. If no one responds, I'll go. A student who had just entered the Soul Lord rolled up his sleeves with an eager expression. You're a sand sculpture, right? Su Yi, you don't even know. A kind-hearted person next to him pressed him back. Su Yi, are you really bad? The person asked. Since its establishment, the college has been the only student to enter the advanced class with the strength of the second ring Soul Master. Others challenged the students in the advanced class to try to procrastinate, while he was directly pressing down on a Soul Lord's hammer at level 35. Thief horror. Another person explained in a low voice beside him. Gulu, the student finally knew why no one dared to fight when Elder Ghost said this sentence. At this moment, the entire soul fighting arena was as silent as death, like a scumbag who had not memorized the entire text, afraid of being drawn by the teacher. I'll do it. After hearing this voice, everyone's eyes turned to it. When Yen stood up with his right hand raised high, everyone else's heart suddenly breathed a sigh of relief. When Yen finished speaking, he was already standing on the soul fighting platform. He must confront Su Yi today, let everyone know his abilities, and also show Helena how brave he is. I understand the rules, let's start. The next second, the ghostly figure disappeared, and when he reappeared, he was already under the soul fighting stage. Yan, level 48 strong attack soul master, martial soul. Flame Lord. According to the rules of actual combat assessment, challengers are the first to report their level and martial soul. Su Yi, level 34 strong attack soul master, martial soul. Cannon. His gaze fell on Yan, appearing extremely relaxed. Are you at level 34? Yan's face was full of disbelief. Su Yi was recently promoted to Soul Master, how could he possibly reach level 34 in just half a month? He doesn't believe it. This guy must be playing tricks again. Is this guy really at level 34? I think it's just bragging. I heard he's only 12 years old, how could he improve so quickly? Absolutely impossible, he just went to the Soul Beast Forest a while ago to obtain the Soul Ring. Under the soul fighting stage, there was also a commotion because Su Yi's level is too outrageous for them. They heard recently that this guy is a great soul master. This kid. The ghost smiled lightly and shook its head. Su Yi, level 34. He doesn't believe it either. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. This kid is going to heaven. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. This kid is going to heaven. After being possessed by the martial soul, Yan's body reached over 2 meters, and his constantly expanding muscles tore open his shirt. The surface of his skin showed fiery red lines. Flames rose in both eyes, staring fixedly at Su Yi across from him. Standing opposite, Su Yi held a shiny silver handgun in his hand, with 3 energy cards rotating on top of the gun body, ready to be inserted into the card slot and fired at Yan in a round. When students from advanced classes like Xiayu and Hulayina saw Su Yi's martial soul and energy card, they didn't react much, but others couldn't help but be surprised. At this moment, all eyes were on Su Yi's cannon. In the next moment, Su Yi quickly inserted the energy card with a bamboo pattern into the slot, and with a mechanical sound, the handgun changed in an instant. Protruides. 12 black barrels spun rapidly, and dense bullets poured down on Yan like a storm. There's no extra pressure or reliance, just go up and do it. Yan's pupils suddenly shrank, and the sudden attack was something he never expected. In his panic, his second soul ring lit up. His soul power surged, and a layer of granite-like armor immediately attached to his strong body. Bang 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 bang. The intensive attack collided the flames on Yan's body, causing sparks to spread throughout the sky. The strong impact kept his body retreating, and thousands of bullets had already sent his lips tingling with shock. The first soul skill, Hell Magma Rush. Yan's first soul ring instantly flashed, and after finding an opportunity, he rushed over without hesitation. For Su Yi, he has studied a lot. This guy is a ranged soul master who is afraid of close combat. 7 steps away, hurry up. But within 7 steps after locking his breath, his body rolled and then jumped high. At the same time, a layer of flames enveloped his fists and hit Su Yi's head. Seeing the fierce attack falling, Su Yi remained calm and his eyes were bright. In an instant, he found the flaw in Yan's body. The next second, he made his own response. After rotating his body for half a turn, he kicked Yan into the air and fired a burst of shots with a green machine gun. The stormy attack turned Yan, who was stranded in mid-air, into a kind of extravagant hope. Sleeping trough, it's too scary. Is this really the Soul Lord? A level 34 Soul Master beats a level 48 Soul Master. Fortunately, I didn't choose to challenge Su Yi earlier, otherwise my feces would have been kicked out now. Seeing this scene, many students under the soul fighting stage suddenly felt their scalp tingling. The difference in soul power by 14 levels has refreshed their understanding of soul fighting. This is the ultimate martial soul of Yen, which integrates attack and defense, combined with a soul power level of 48. If it were someone else, they would probably have been beaten so hard that they couldn't lift their heads. This kid. The ghost also has a bewildered expression. As a titled Douluo, when Sui had just released his martial soul, he felt a hint of something wrong. It was definitely not the soul power fluctuation that a level 31 soul lord could produce. It was very likely that, as this kid said, he had already reached level 34. Although he doesn't know how to do it, the fact is already in front of him. What surprised him the most was Su Yi's response when he faced Yan's counterattack just now. At that time, his eyes were shining brightly, and he immediately noticed the flaws in his opponent's body. This kind of spiritual power is definitely not something that Soul Lord can show. He touched his own head. This kid is going to heaven. At this moment, Su Yi's attack on Yen on the soul fighting platform did not stop for a moment. When the yellow card was pulled out, his wrist reversed and a purple card carved with a colorful tiger had already been inserted. The green machine gun was disassembled and reassembled, instantly transforming into an anti-tank gun with strange blue patterns. In the blink of an eye, Yen caught the gap, and upon landing, his third and fourth soul rings lit up simultaneously. The surrounding air suddenly became sticky, with twisted waves and hot air currents spreading across the entire soul fighting platform. Bubbles of magma churned out from beneath the ground, devouring the incoming shell. In the next moment, Yen saw the shell magnify in front of him, and his face was filled with shock. How could this be possible? In the previous soul fighting, his flames could clearly suppress Su Yi's shells. But now, before he had time to think, the shell containing terrifying energy exploded in front of him, and the armor condensed from the second soul skill was also shattered by the explosion. Yen stumbled on the soul fighting platform, unable to even distinguish direction. How could Su Yi let go of such a good opportunity? At this point, the anti-tank gun in his hand had turned into a laser gun, and the energy in the third card was constantly compressed in the barrel. With charging, the laser cannon in my arms has expanded to its maximum. Shwa! The dazzling light made everyone instinctively avoid it, and a bucket-like beam of light shot towards Yen. At this moment, the ghost made a move. He could tell that Yen was not his opponent, and if he continued to fight, it would be meaningless and even harm a student. However, when the beam of light passed through his body, it made him feel uneasy. This skill can actually ignore collisions of objects. After realizing it, he flipped over and slapped Yen, causing his body to fly to the side. Although there is not much difference in the damage suffered by Su Yi's third soul skill and his palm strike, the meaning is completely different. He has already chosen to take action. If Su Yi's attack hits Yen again, where should he put his old face? The first practical assessment ends here. Su Yixing. Although there were no waves on the ghost's face, her heart was no longer calm. This kid's performance today must be reported to the Pope. What a monster! Su Yi jumped off the soul fighting platform and sat down in a random spot. After this battle, the feeling he felt was wonderful. After his physical strength increased, he felt a significant decrease in the recoil of the gun, and after taking the long-awaited water dew, he could catch some subtle mistakes from his opponent. The scariest thing is still his vision. Sitting here, you can see Helena's hair fluttering from 100 meters across from the soul fighting platform. After one round, the assessment for the advanced class has quickly ended. When the students who were promoted to Soul Master were looking for opponents in the advanced class, no one chose Su Yi. It's so terrifying. The dense shooting left a deep shadow on these students who wanted to enter the advanced class, and no one wanted to become the next Yen. Choose him as your opponent. Then that's iron and foolish. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. Extremely panic and anxious of the whole Douluo continent. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10 Extremely Panic and Anxious of the Whole Douluo Continent, it's level 34. After listening to the ghost's report, Bibi Dong also looked surprised. In less than a month, Su Yi surprisingly rose several levels in a row. A soul power level of 34 can suppress Yenda, and compared to Hu Liena and Xiayu, he can't get any advantage from him. A month ago, Su Yi and the other three were equally strong, and in such a short period of time, there was a tremendous change. Can a third soul ring really change so much? She knew that ghosts wouldn't lie about this matter, and now she regrets not watching today's practical assessment of the advanced class. Under the Pope's crown, this boy's spiritual strength seems to have clearly increased. Spiritual power is a very elusive thing for soul masters, and many soul masters only experience a significant increase at the level of soul saint. The spiritual power on this kid clearly does not match his soul power level. For a moment, he suspected that Su Yi had eaten something messy. Alright, I got it. The Pope raised his hand slightly, gesturing for the ghost to retreat. This kid. Now even she can't see through. It seems that she needs to prepare a soul bone. If we continue to increase at this speed, it may not take Su Yi to become a soul sect at the age of 14. This is much stronger than her back then. 3 days later. The story of Dugu Bo being beaten up still spread from Tiando City. After hearing this, all the already sensitive forces were staring at the Heavenly Do Empire in the Martial Soul Hall. Even many people say that the predicted war is about to begin. The whole Douluo continent is extremely panic and anxious. In response to this, Yu Guan and Gui Gui immediately jumped out and admitted to their violent beating of Dugu Bo. But their rhetoric is personal grudges, and they just want to tidy up that old thing when they accidentally encounter it. For this kind of rhetoric, all parties involved are tacit and tacit Seven Treasures Glass Sect. Gu Rong, you old thing should say something. Tell me an egg. The underlying meaning is. What is the relationship between the two old guys beating Dugu Bo and our Martial Soul Hall? These bastards are really stinky and shameless. Gu Rong slapped the teacup in his hand onto the table and exclaimed angrily. Everyone is well aware of this matter. Ning Fengji smiled slightly. From his attitude towards this matter, it can be seen that the current Martial Soul Hall also does not want to go to war. Various forces in Douluo Continent are making changes around the prophecy in their minds. I don't think getting beaten up by Dugu Bo is necessarily a bad thing for our Seven Treasures Glass Sect. Qinshin said, Old thing, where are you from? As soon as Chen Xian spoke to the Martial Soul Hall, Gu Rong immediately became angry. Dugu Bo, this old bastard, has become a popular figure in front of the Snowy Night Emperor in recent years. In addition, due to the conflict between the two princes, Xueben and Zwiqing, this old bastard has been against our Seven Treasures Glass Sect more than once. Compared to him, I am still more annoyed by the Martial Soul Hall. Sword uncle, bone uncle, don't argue anymore. The situation is not as exaggerated as you said. After all, Dugu Bo is also a guest of the Heavenly Do Empire and can be considered our ally in some aspects. He has long been accustomed to arguing with these two living treasures of the sect. In the Tiando royal family, he supports Xueqinghe, after all, he is his student. Prince Xuexing and Dugu Bo support the fourth prince's avalanche, so sometimes everyone may have an unpleasant scene. But no matter what, they still belong to the Tiando Empire camp. However, considering the fact that Dugu Bo did not die and was only beaten up, he really feels quite satisfied in his heart. From our eyeliner, we heard that we saw Su Yi in Tiando City some time ago. After taking a sip of the good tea, Ning Fengji said. Fengji, what you mean is that Su Yi knows the inside story about Dugu Bo being beaten. Chen Xian and Gu Rong stopped arguing after hearing this news. It's very likely, arrange someone to meet him once. During the time when Dugu Bo was beaten, Su Yi appeared in Tiando City. In his opinion, things could not have happened so coincidentally. Okay, I'll arrange it now. As soon as the words fell, Chen Xian disappeared into the main hall of discussion like sword energy. The Blue Electric Tyrannosaurus Rex family. Master, the fact that Dugubo was beaten up is like a chicken eating a firefly. It's clear in the heart and clear in the stomach. Our sects can be said to be tacit. Now that the Martial Soul Hall is attacking Dugubo, no one can say that they will attack us Blue Electric one day. The top priority of the sect is to be prepared for everything. Do you also believe in prophecies that deceive fools? How could our Blue Electric Tyrannosaurus Rex family be annihilated by the Martial Soul Hall? In the Blue Electric Tyrannosaurus Rex conference hall, several elders are discussing the turmoil in Douluo Continent. Everyone, be quiet. Whether true or false, the emergence of this prophecy has made various forces extremely sensitive. Even because of Dugubo's beating, 2 sects chose to join the Martial Soul Hall. Yu Yuanjun on the throne looked at the elders in the main hall. Sitting there, his burly figure resembled a small mountain, with faint dragon scale marks faintly visible on his arms. In the prophecy, even hidden sects like Haotian's sect participated, and he would never believe that their Blue Electric Tyrannosaurus Rex family could stay out of the situation. But if the prophecy is false, then why can this prophecy exist in everyone's minds in the form of memory? He always maintains a skeptical attitude towards this prophecy. Master, what should we do? The second in command, Yu Luomian, asked. Insert dark lines into various forces and constantly monitor their movements. The resounding voice of Yu Yuanjun echoed in the main hall. Master, it's easy to say that there are 2 other sects and empires, but it's really difficult to penetrate into this papal palace. Why did 3 groups of people sent out one after another be pulled out by the old ghost? When it comes to the matter of the undercover Pope's palace, everyone in the hall feels a headache. The secret screening of the papal palace leaves their dark lines nowhere to hide. Send someone again until it's inserted. Yu Yuanjun said seriously. The Martial Soul Hall is what they should master the most. If they don't know the movements of this group of people, they won't be at ease. Yes, Lord. Yu Luomian bravely took on this difficult task. Inserting a dark line into the Martial Soul Hall is no different from sending someone to death. He doesn't believe anyone can lurk inside the papal palace. End of this chapter.